So in my own experience and leaders that I've worked with, it's about people who are super authentic. They're a little bit humble. They're very compassionate. And the word that I would use is they're really kind. So that sets what I call the conditions for an inclusive leader. And then the other piece that sort of tags onto that is, but equally, they hold their teams and themselves to account around what outcomes that they want to drive around inclusive leadership. Has to be embedded in the business strategy. I think having a separate ED&I strategy actually creates more problems than it does good outcomes. But if you embed it into your business strategy, if you embed it into a wider agenda, I think that's where you get traction, and that's when it starts to embed itself in the culture of the organisation. So this becomes, this is how we do things, this is what's important to us, this is where we'll spend our time and energy, and this is where we'll show up. That is very impactful. So over the last few years, and coming out of COVID, ironically, we've seen people polarise to communities or initiatives that they feel comfortable with or an affiliation with. And the irony is actually it's about creating inclusion where we're bringing people together rather than having separate groups and people showing up to those groups because either they're feeling quite vulnerable. Actually, I don't have a voice, so I need to attach myself to something, some initiative, some employee groups. And actually, what we need to do is start to bring people together, having communities come together and be a force of positive change, use our employee networks to get a real understanding of what's going on at the grassroots levels, what's working, what's not, what do we need to do, what outcomes do we need to drive. We're seeing more and more, both at work and in our communities, that polarisation, which is not good. And that comes back to, integration, cultures, good outcomes. We need to bring people together. My hopes are around actually we just start to see good outcomes being driven. What do I mean by that? I was with somebody and this just really landed with me. They sat there and said, if we look after the planet in terms of how we live on it, what resources we take from it, actually we're safeguarding the planet for future generations. If we treat people decently, if we have a good moral compass, then actually we will create environments where people can be their authentic selves at work. They'll want to join the organisations. They'll want to stay with the organisation. They'll advocate for our business. And on the back of that, if you do those I won't say simple things, but if you do those things, then actually good financial outcomes will be driven by it. And I think for me, that would be a really powerful thing to happen. We don't have to drive the DEI agenda because we have to set targets because otherwise things don't change. Actually, if we hold ourselves to account, we operate in a morally responsible way, then actually the culture does become inclusive. We treat people with dignity and respect. A snowball effect starts to happen. And then you get good financial outcomes, and then you can invest in other different things. And it's just that reinforcing situation.